Welcome back, fellow Toastmasters. We do have a dynamic speaker with us this morning who's going to share a subject around respect, if not respect, in its fullest. Help me welcome Ms. Thinkofall.
I'm Aneta Thinkofall, and I'm here today to share with you a visual way to put together all the components, or as many of the components as possible. What I've learned from Murphy is that there were several different speakers in the past that you've had, like Wendy Hahn, Laura Stevenson, Gary Polk, Shanae Johnson, and they shared with you various elements of applying for a job, whether it was the resume or whether it was the interview. So I'm scratching my head after this person that I met at a Toastmasters club, the Ethical Elite, invited me to speak here. I thought, what can I add that's not already been spoken about? So I thought, okay, I'll scratch my head and I'll think about it. And by the way, if you ever wonder, if you can't come up with an answer, someone said decades ago, go to sleep asking yourself over and over and over. And in the morning, get up, get outside as fast as possible, and ideas will come to you. Happier people get at least 20 minutes of sunshine before noon. So I came up with this idea that I would use my business process improvement skills that I learned from 30 years in the corporate world to give you a bird's eye view and a bug's eye view. When you look at the handouts that I passed around, or Chris passed around, Chris helped me pass around, the first handout, excuse the lines, I didn't know how to delete them, but the first one is really a bird's eye view and then a bug's eye view of a baseball field. When you look at the baseball field, naturally there's the 4 bases, but it's really 5 bases because I think of them as stepping up to the home base and then going around the bases. And then later on I'm going to show you how to flip that into the bug's eye view from a bird's eye view. What gives me the qualifications to stand here and share with you? Because I'm sure in here is millions of dollars worth of expertise that we're just wanting to find a match where you can be compensated for your expertise. A short background, I like the phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So instead of me going womp womp or blah 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 about my corporate career, I'll just use my Vanna White opportunity and share with you how is pictures worth 1,000 words. At Sprint, just one of my projects was to turn this little 75-page book into a 750-page book. It's called Service Creation Environment. Sprint was launched in 1984. I started working there in 1991. All they had was a flimsy little thing they put together and never really used. So I was the Tonto of a project to document everything that was done by everybody to launch products at Sprint. It took 10 months, and then we trained for 2 months. But it was all the detail of how to launch a product. From that, I received an award called President's Club, and a little secret. Inside of that, after I did a great job, I was propositioned by my supervisor, so I became eligible for the Me Too moment, and he threatened me that if I said anything when I declined his offer, that if I said anything, he would wipe out my name, because at the time, my name was Anita Gill. In 1991, Anita Hill became a well-known name in America. And he said, if you tell anybody what I just did to you in this little conference room, as he tried to offer, I think I could get you a promotion if I get from you what I want. I ignored that. He got fired shortly afterwards. And I stayed there for 10 years because I needed the job. I was a single parent, and now I'm enjoying my Sprint pension. From that job, I learned how to look at a situation, what I call not microscopically or macroscopically, but start by looking at a situation, for example, finding a new job. Looking at it from a normal way, a normal level, a bird's eye view, macroscopically, and a bug's eye view, microscopically. So when you look at something at a baseball field, I think it's one of the more organized sports, you have the 4 bases, home base, first, second, third, and back to home after you score. This next sheet is what we're going to go through in a minute. But what I'd like to ask you is, can anyone help me, or does anyone have an idea on what you think this circle means? This is taking the view of any project or any task that you do in life that takes several steps. From a bug's eye view of looking at it big picture, we're going to go around the base from getting ready to get up to bat. First base is the getting an interview or applying for the job. Second one is getting an interview. Third one is getting an offer letter. And fourth one is accepting the offer letter based on your terms. That's the bird's eye view. Has anyone got any bright ideas on what this circle is?
Pie.
Close. It's something that we almost all have.
Target.
Almost. It's something we all have. It's something we're all wearing, usually.
Wearing.
A watch.
A watch. Time.
This is, the reason I didn't fill it in is because this represents a clock. And here, use a little bit of creativity. Bird's eye view, you see the big picture of a field. Bug's eye view, you see the close-up steps. And when you take, I've always wondered why the baseball stadium goes counterclockwise in contrast to a clock. So I put my thinking cap on and I thought, how can I make that be related to the clock? Well, flip it. And I left this open, oops, turned it upside down. I left this open so that you can put 12, 1, 2, 3. Think of 12 as a starting point, like home base. 1, 2, 3, first base, 4, 5, 6, second base, 7, 8, 9, third base, 10, 11, 12, home base. So you go from preparing to apply for a job, you apply, you get the interview, you get the offer, you get the job. In between this bug's eye view or expansion of bird's eye view of getting a job or any project in life, whether it's buying a house, getting married, relationship, whatever, you can create your own bases from a bird's eye view and then go into detail 12, 1, 2, 3. You can have more than 3 steps. You could have 13 steps. You could have 30 steps. But this is a way for a visual. They say, show me once versus tell me 1,000 times. So after Murphy, I asked Murphy, what had your past speakers spoken about? What can I add to help you remember this in some simple form? And I thought of a couple things. When I worked for AT&T, it was actually my first job at a high school. I didn't go direct to college. So that was a couple days ago. It's actually over 40 years ago. When I went to AT&T, they taught me the 5 steps of driving safely that to this day, 48 years later, I still remember them. Keep my eyes moving to get the big picture. Expect the unexpected. Leave yourself an out. And don't be caught dead sitting on your seatbelt. I've got a very good driving record because 48 years later, I still remember that KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it short and sweet, type of training because they repeated it. How many of you have ever listened to a commencement speech at a graduation? The only commencement speech that I can remember is Norman Schwarzkopf. As you know, a commencement speech usually lasts around, 20, sometimes 30 minutes? Norman Schwarzkopf came up to the podium and he looked at the graduating class and he said, never, 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 never give up. He sat down. Short enough for this little brain to remember. And that training from AT&T was little enough for this little brain to remember. And I hope the simplicity of this is something that when you see a picture's worth 1,000 words, show me once versus tell me 1,000 times, you can think of, okay, I've got to get a job. And then after I get my job, you can use your next project. But this is a way to tiptoe into the steps that you need to take to get what you want. In Dr. Joyce Brothers' book, How to Get Anything You Want, she said, figure out what you want. In one breath, I could tell you the book. Figure out what you want, see if it's doable, learn what you gotta do it and get it. That's one breath of that book. And this can be used right now for getting a job. By taking the bird's eye view and expanding it into the bud's eye view and start filling this in. Again, from 12 to 3, just to apply for the job, could be 3, 13, 30, 35, a lot of steps. But just fill them in and use this. When you think of this, thinking, what step am I at? Am I allocating time, which I call TikTok money. So let's go through this second handout so we're gonna tiptoe into this process. Imagine going around the bases. First, we're going to prepare, before I step into the batter's box, before I contact any potential employers, who would like to, let's go around this table first and read these 6 steps, and the second table can read the next steps so that there's audience participation. Ready, set, go. First, A.
Clarify what I enjoy doing, the lifestyle I want to enjoy, and my legacy.
Okay.
B, identify which industries and careers I can create a job income.
C, list attributes I want a potential employer to have.
Next.
Letter D, list skills, attributes I pride myself in offering any employment.
A, must-have / nice-to-haves of an employer, e.g. insurance, flex hours.
Next.
Helen?
Possible employers, information, contact information. Use Excel to track this.
This is my simplest summary before we go on to game on and getting onto the field. This is preparation for each of us or each of you to do before you step up to the batter's box and you're in the game where you are identifying and you're ready, you identified the employers that you want to apply for. You're going to list your benefits or your features, but also list the benefits to them. Instead of, I want this job and I want you to hire me, it's all about them. So everybody's tuned into what's in it for me. So that hiring person or the HR manager is wanting to know, is this person writing in my, for me, to my benefit, or for his or her benefit? Now, the second part is, once you've identified who you want to apply for, now we're gonna get started with the part that we're actually in the batter's box, heading to first, second, third, fourth, and around the bases. Would you please continue?
First base, applying for at least 5 jobs.
Second base interview, research the company, dress impeccably well, create my own set of questions, rehearse, arrive early and be confident and brief.
Third base, job offer, list my must-haves and what I'm negotiable about.
Fourth base, home base. I've got it, so I'm full of joy. Who to thank? How I'll celebrate. And then follow up, thank you to my new employer.
So if I didn't get the job I wanted, what did I learn and what will I do next?
Murphy?
Remember, if you want something, first give it away, because what you give away comes back to you 2 to 10 times fold. Volunteer a bit / share your time and talent.
I just stuck one little quote, one little inspirational quote here. Many times they say, if you want something, give it away, because what you give away comes back 2 to 10 fold. So keep this in mind. Please use this as a starter document to turn this circle into a useful clock that you can put in all the steps. Next, I want to thank Wayne and Murphy first for your invitation, but also I ask for them to compile things that, challenges that you are concerned about and you would like answers to. So let's go on to the next document that I passed out where it says primary challenges. Okay? Looking at the questions that Murphy sent me are in a larger size font, like attitude, and then beneath that are each of these. In the quickest way possible, how much time do we have? I have what, 11:30 or 11 o'clock?
11:15.
11:15. Okay. What this boils down to, in the first one, the attitude, what I did for you yesterday, actually I got an opportunity to help someone in your position. I just said good morning to my neighbor as I was going out for my morning run or walk. And I says, how's it going? She goes, not good. I hate my job and I got an opportunity for a new one, but I don't know how to get started with my resume. She's not she's not as highly educated as she would like to be, a young Hispanic woman who's very hardworking, but not the doesn't have the greatest talent or expertise in writing a resume or cover letter. So I helped her a couple hours before I left for my side job. Went back last night and helped her a couple more hours, and I'm going to be coaching her tonight, tomorrow, because she's got to get her resume in by Wednesday, and she's thinking, what's a cover letter? So I helped her with that and chose to, instead of me standing here and talking simply about the detail of bird's eye view and bird's eye view, what I did was some research on the internet based on the challenges that Murphy and Wayne shared with me that they compiled from your responses. I looked at the attitude. This first article is one, the reason I put it all in here instead of just saying it verbally, so you can take it home and remember it. They say if you do something within a day or two, after you've learned about it, you retain 80%. If you do it within a week, you retain 20%. If you do it within a month, you retain 2%. Beyond that, bye-bye. So this is information that you can take. It's really how to keep upbeat. I'll race through these quickly. Take care of myself. Create a generous list of my strengths. Have an accountability buddy. I got this article from here. The reason I ask everybody to sign the sign-in sheet, I will email this to you. So all you have to do is click on the link if you want to read the rest of the article or any of the other articles. But it's taking care of myself, create a generous list of my strengths, have an accountability buddy. Look back on your whole life journey. I would recommend you take a landscape layout of page and put DOB to RIP, rest in peace. And you're at the midpoint or wherever you want to be, and tick some marks up above the line if they were a positive experience, and below the line if they were a negative experience. And you know this check mark that we use? Especially, does anybody remember the Franklin Covey planner? Remember the Franklin Covey planner before we had smartphones? We would check off something when it's done. I'd like to give you a new association for this check mark, may I?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When a bad thing happens, think of it as the arrow to the bow and arrow. When a bad thing happens, you get set back a little bit, but you can spring forward if you take some time and meditate and reflect on what caused this. Was it anything I could have done better? Anything I can learn from? Or was it out of my control? Have all of you heard the new Serenity Prayer? Who can share with me the old Serenity Prayer?
God grant me this.
Serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference.
Do you know the key word? What the key word in that is that was repeated? Things. Ready for the new Serenity Prayer? It applies well in this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the people in the world that I cannot change, the courage to change the one person in the world that I can, and the wisdom to know it's me. My control that I can change. So that when you come back from a setback, you're not just springing back, you're springing upward, because now you're wiser from the setback that you had. So like an arrow, you don't just throw it like this or toss a ball. You go back and you get that momentum and you toss a ball toward the batter as a pitcher does. Or when you're using a bow and arrow, you pull back to make the arrow go further. So when you have a setback like a job loss, think of it as an opportunity to cocoon and reflect and think about what you want to learn better. How many of you as parents use these little stars and you put them on the ceiling of your children's bedroom who were afraid to go to sleep at night, but they couldn't see the stars if they didn't turn out the light? When you have a setback, like a job loss, and you've got some dark moments in your life, think of the stars. Are you on track, and are you doing a job, and in a job where you're being paid for doing something that you enjoy doing? Consider A setback time is a time to reflect and think about if you're doing what you want to be doing. Moving on, the rest of these, fake it until you make it, tap into your network, support network. I highly recommend an accountability buddy. That helped me from really sinking when I had some sinkable moments in my life. Don't isolate myself, get a short-term side job. Have any of you heard of this quote? Sometimes you just gotta go through a short-term inconvenience for a long-term improvement. Short-term inconvenience for a long-term improvement. Volunteer work. That is repeated in almost every resource that I found to help you with these challenges. Volunteering has proven to be a very massively helpful thing. For example, when I moved from Kansas to California, first lived in the Bay Area, I was involved in politics. I had held an elected position in Kansas and then moved to California. The first thing I did was get involved to do some volunteer work. And by the end of that first day, although I helped more days, by the end of that first day, when I mentioned I was new, they said, "What do you like to do?" I go, "I like to go sailing." "Great, I'm a member of the Corinthian Yacht Club over in Tiburon, and we have wild nights for old kids on Friday night." So all I did was volunteer, and then I got an inroads to an activity that I enjoy doing. That's just one example. For the sake of time, I won't mention any more. But just know that when you give, you receive back. If you don't have treasures, as in money, the other two ways that you can give is time and talent. So you can volunteer your time, talent, or treasures. If you're short on treasures, then volunteer the other two. And I have some suggestions on the back. Next, I'm gonna just cover the topics and let you know, rest assured, that everything that Mr. Murphy and Mr. Wayne sent to me is in here with resources. Going through number 2, managing transition from one career to the next. There's steps here to save space. I didn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's steps on how to transition to a new industry faster than you thought possible. How to get a new job and a new career without having industry-specific experience. Again, I summarized these, and here is a Google link. But the reason for signing this is I can send this to you. You can click on this link and read the detail. Resume writing and customization. I didn't touch on that because I wanted to be respectful of the people from, is it Agilon that spoke? What was their names? Laura Stevenson and Wendy somebody? Okay. Oh, shit, okay. So because they touched on resume, I'm not gonna touch that. I did bring my resume along if you wanna take a look at it later on, where I put objective, core competencies, then I put a chronological listing of my experience at Sprint, where I worked for 10 years, and the second page was a functional summary along with my education and attributes. The one thing I did include that I didn't see mentioned in this list, but I thought you might like to know about, is how to deal with different cultures. Of all the articles I found in my research time yesterday, the most helpful one that I thought would help you is 4 sneaky ways to determine company culture in an interview. So without saying, "Are you fair to everybody?" you can ask other certain questions. And so that's right here. I also have the link once I email this to you, or email, yeah. And then general job search. That is you've covered it so much already. You've been working on a better job, so I didn't put a lot of time in that. But because I wanted to save space, I found a really good article on dealing with age discrimination, how to handle it in your job search, and how to help professionals over 50 thrive. So the second part, bottom end of page 2, all of page 3, all of page 4 is about dealing with age discrimination. I also have links in there, but to summary, the best part in this preferred article of many articles available that you can find yourself in Google to read more beyond this is age discrimination is terribly hard to prove. The best resources are within yourself. Get the training you need, like Dr. Joyce Brothers said, figure out what you want. If it's realistic, it's not something like I want to go to the moon in 1 minute and be back the next. Look great, check out smaller businesses, nonprofits, they want grown-ups. Who was it that mentioned the word like? If that irritates you, then mention, I can get to the point in one breath, and I don't have to go through a maze of a lot of likes. So you have to figure out what my point is. There's also, here again, I advise unemployed people to volunteer. Then on the back, I wanted to bring up on a high note, because it's not the happiest time in our life when we are looking for a job. So they say if you take someone down, bring them back up. So on this page, right? So on this last page, the top part of it is inspiring stories. If you knew how many times some people were rejected, whether it's, here I read the stories, but then I just listed them. Thomas Edison, how many times did it take to do a light bulb? 1,000. Simon Collin, he had an entertainment company that he listened to his gut and he was very successful. Milton Hershey, a chocolate company. Stephen Jobs, think of how he was fired by his own company. That time away gave him to see how immature he was. Like the former leader of Uber said, I need to grow up. Walt Disney, J.K. Rowling was on poverty, she was on welfare, had all kinds of setbacks. Now she's the second wealthiest entertainer next to Oprah, she's worth $15 billion. Anyway, and then here's more stories that you can go to if you go to this link. And the last thing are my suggestions. These are all suggestions that I assume you have probably already explored, but just in case you haven't, there are many things like Chamber of Commerce. There's one thing back on page 2 that I skipped over, and that is all the jobs that are work from home. When you go back to page 3, resume writing, 4 sneaky ways, and just under general job search, ZipRecruiter has over 1 million work from home jobs. Monster has approximately 280,000. Indeed has 50,000. And Glassdoor has 429,000. Work from home, you don't have to do the what? Commute.
Or put on shoes.
Right, you can work in your PJs. Wear your PJs.
But how many are legit and how many are? So there's a lot of scams in.
Yes,
like,
that's a
Monster
good
has
point.
tons
You
of
have to
scams.
sift through and find the prints out of versus all the frauds. There's another organization that I'd like to draw attention to. Has anyone heard of AWAI? AWAI. Parallel to Murphy's wonderful introduction to Toastmasters, which has helped many people get over the stutters and the insecurity of speaking in front of a group. For example, myself, which I couldn't do 20 years ago. But anyway, for many people, Toastmasters is a solution for getting over speaking skills. AWAI is such a wonderful resource for writing. Since many of you have many years of experience, and one of your questions was, how can my experience weigh against these young, vigorous people just fresh out of college? Well, you can write about it. I have recently learned about AWAI. I'm participating in they call it companion, I call it hand-holding series for me to get on my website and to use my area of expertise in it. Ways that a person can write about either their area of expertise, their industry. You can write as a traveler if you want to write as a travel, or you can do copywriting where you're simply writing for a potential employer, like a long sales letter, or do emails, or you can improve their website, or who's the IT person? Is it you in the bronze sweater?
Huh.
IT person.
It's Wayne right now, actually, and Dave and a team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can write, AWAI is American Writers and Artists Institute. They offer a multitude of classes, and that's why I listed them here. It's a fabulous resource where you can get paid for writing. The one course that they offer you go to this link, it's on the back of my new business cards, is one where you can purchase something. It's a package, as I understand. It does cost several $100s over the course of like 5 months. But the first month is only $99, and you can check it out and return it if you don't like it before you even get billed for it. So you're out this, but you got more knowledge about writing. There is another resource on here that I didn't write down, but it's called Copywriting 901. It's like, there's regular milk, and there's non-fat milk, and there's powdered milk, and then there's sweetened condensed milk that you use to make fudge. This Copywriting 901 is sweetened, condensed, all in one, on one page. Tom Antione, one of the world's most famous and richest online marketer. So he wrote a copywriting course, Copywriting 901. I encourage you to reserve time to not only work on getting a new job, but this is the other reason I wanted to ask for your email address. This is my weekly planner. Without letting you see all the detail, this is what it looks like. But I start off like this. And if you could allocate, if you saw the colored version of this, you'd see when I drive for Uber, that's my side job. And it's kind of humbling. I didn't go to college to be a caddy, so I think of myself as I transport very interesting travelers. And then I get what I affirm when I take that attitude. So outside of driving for Uber Sunday afternoon, St. Pat's Day would have been a busy day if I wasn't helping my neighbor and working on this, but Saturday and then 3 out of 4 evenings. And that's a nice side job parallel to the work that I do in my own company. So since I've discovered AWAI, I'm working on my own company, Thinkofall, and Local Choices for Global Respect in the morning, studying copywriting in the afternoon, take a little snooze or a little nap around 4 o'clock, and then drive for a few hours. It's my outing instead of drinking at a bar. So this weekly schedule is something that's helped me. Now, if you're interested, I also have a full 2-page spread that it has what I planned and what I actually did. If you want to keep track of it, that's really detailed. For me, I can usually just check these off. But these are things that I wanted to do to offer to help you with your job skills. And never give up. Never, 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 never give up on your goals, whether it's finding a job, and after it's finding a job, maybe what's your next goal? Is it about happiness, health, or wealth? Are usually the 3 areas. So please use the bird's eye view and then the bug's eye view to first get the job and get a job that you enjoy doing so that you don't have to, quote, work another day in your life, as I saw in a quote many years ago in a restaurant. So if there's anything I can do to help you, do you have any questions that I can help you with